Hey guys, welcome to the guide. In this episode, we are talking about the M-14, also known as the Springfield M1A, which is the civilian version of the M14, but I still call it the M14 because I don't care. It's practically the same gun. It's just the M14 has a selector switch that lets it go full auto, but even the military units that use them pretty much weld that selector switch so it only can go semi-auto. So pretty much an M1A is an M14, so I'm just going to call it M14. And it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside because I own an M14. Technically it's an M1A, but I call it an M14. So it just makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside that I own it, okay? So I'm going to call it an M14, I don't care. Alright, so the M14 is the successor to the legendary M1 Garand of World War II fame. Pretty much what they did is they did some slight modifications to the internals, and then they added a drop magazine to up the M14 to a 20-round capacity compared to the M1 Garand's 8-round capacity. And they also converted the bullet size, because the M1 Garand shot a 30-06 bullet and the M14 shoots a 308 bullet. But comparatively, the ballistics are the same because in the years in between the developments, chemists figured out how to improve bullet gunpowder. So the gunpowder in the 308 was more powerful than the gunpowder than the 30-06, even though technically the 30-06 is a bigger bullet than compared to the 308. And that's why you can't stick modern 30-06 bullets into a vintage World War II Korean War M1 Garand, because the bullets that they made back then were weaker than the bullets than we make now. Yes, you can get away with it for a little bit, but sooner or later that M1 Garand's going to blow up in your face. So you have to get specially made bullets for the M1 Garand nowadays because the gunpowder's more powerful than it was back then. But in a nutshell, that's the difference between the M14 and the M1 Garand. Now, the M14 is considered to be a battle rifle. And yes, nowadays it gets used as a DMR, the squad designated marksman, which it excels at that role too. But its effective range is about 600 yards. It's not a sniper rifle, because to me, a sniper rifle is something that can tag stuff consistently 600 yards plus. While the M14, its effective range is about 600 yards. Give or take the shooter. Obviously, the shooter makes a big difference, but it's about 600 yards. And as far as CQB, close quarters, goes, the M14's not very good. Within 100 yards, it's not the best gun to be having. But it's an awesome gun. If your targets are from 100 yards to 600 yards, it's an awesome gun to have. And as far as accuracy goes, out of the box, it's about a 2 MOA accurate gun. It's accurate enough. That's plenty accurate for combat standards. And I love dudes that make a big deal about 1 MOA guns. My gun needs to be 1 MOA. It just needs to be. And I just look at the dude and I'm like, well, can you shoot 1 MOA? Without a stand, without, any special things to help you get that gun stable, can you shoot 1 MOA? And they look at me and they're like, oh, well, no. Okay, then why is it such a big deal that your gun can shoot 1 MOA? If you can't shoot it, then why does your gun have to shoot it? So, 2 MOA is plenty good for a gun, generally speaking. Once you get into bolt actions where that one shot really, really matters, then 1 MOA becomes a thing. But with semi-automatics, 2 MOA is plenty good. So let's get into the downside of the M14. First off, it's heavy. It is heavy. I mean, especially if you put the EBR stock on it, that all-metal stock that modernizes it, then it gets pretty heavy. I'm a fan of the old wood stock personally, but at the same time with the weight, if you're some 20-something-year-old, dude, that's not a big deal. The weight becomes an issue after you pass the year of 30. Then the weight becomes an issue. But if you're some 20-something-year-old dude, the weight's not big of a deal. The bullets are heavy. You can't carry as many 308 bullets as you can 5.56, so that's a downside. And my biggest gripe about it is the scope. It is a pain to mount a scope on this thing because it was built before scopes were really that popular. So you got to buy a special scope mount that costs like $200, and then you've got to buy the scope itself, which, depending on who you are, that can be between $300 and $2,000. So that's the downside. The scope mounting system on the M14 is pretty much garbage. But the iron sights on the M14 are amazing, so that kind of makes up for it, because the iron sights are based off of the M1 Garand's iron sights, and those iron sights are awesome. So, yeah, that's my overview of the M14. I made a gun run video of it, of me just going around and shooting it and having fun with it, so you can check that out if you want to. Thanks for watching.